So what I will do is go ahead and pull this up for those of you that are here. This is getting the most out of second screens and companion apps. So what I did was I went and created a little post on the Streaming Media Europe Facebook page. So if you go to facebook.com/streamingmediaeurope, I actually made a post right here. It says you can join us in the discussion right here. So go ahead and pull that up on your phone or laptop or tablet or whatever it is that you're using, and I would really like you guys to comment there and kind of talk a little bit about what we're talking about. Interesting, good, bad, indifferent. But this is second screens, so I'd like you guys to have a second screen going while we're having the conversation. So let me go ahead and get our two panelists to introduce themselves. Then I'll introduce myself, and then we'll start off with some definitions and get some case study, some stories, and then move right to questions. This is a small, intimate audience, so I'd like to make sure we get our questions answered and talk about things that you all are interested in. So we'll start right here with Will. If you would introduce us to yourself and your company.
Apparently, yeah. I don't know, do we need mics? Maybe. Well, I know 20% of the audience and the panel, so I'll give you a brief intro. I'm Will, I'm from Showcaster, I'm the founder of Showcaster, and we are the web's live TV platform. So we work with big broadcasters like Channel 4 and Sky, broadcasters in the States, as well as partners like Zbox and others to create compelling, we think, second screen experiences and interactivity. And we do that in a number of ways. We treat it all as companion type stuff, so it's designed to complement the TV. It's designed to enable the broadcasters to kind of curate and own that second screen experience rather than lose it to the myriad of other second screen independent apps that are out there. And a good example of some of the things that we do, Skins, which is a kind of trashy, is there anyone from Channel 4 here? Don't think so. Which is a kind of trashy, like teen thing. We got all the cast together at the same time as it was screening out to the audience at home, and we filmed the cast and we broadcast the cast onto iPads and smartphones and all the rest of it, so that the audience at home, the viewers at home, could watch the show as it was screening, and they could see the cast live, and they could see their reactions to what was going on. They could see them jump up with excitement or cringe as something went wrong, and they could also interact with the cast, and they could ask them questions and all the rest of it, all tightly integrated with Twitter and Facebook and that kind of stuff. So a lot of it's experimental at the moment. Some of it's doing really well. One of our formats, Live in Chelsea, has had 500,000 viewers, which is, you know, a big success from Channel 4's perspective. And we also send stuff back now to the TV screen, so interaction that's happening on the second screen, the results, polls, all that kind of stuff popping up onto TV. So there's a load of stuff in there. It's all around second screen, it's all around companion, and it's all around interactive.
Great, thank you, Will. Simon?
Thanks, Jose. My name's Simon James. I work on the product marketing side for Rovi. Rovi provide a kind of range of technologies that businesses use to create digital entertainment experiences. So in one area we have a range of discovery solutions in the form of TV guides, in the form of entertainment metadata that other companies use to build things like apps and provide TV guidance solutions. Customers are major service providers, the Comcasts, etc. of this world. Then we have delivery and display products as well. That includes our DivX technology, which is used to view content on many different types of devices. We also have a white label over-the-top video platform that retailers use, such as Dixons, Sainsbury's, Best Buy, various retailers around the world, and they use that to provide multi-screen video consumption storefronts, essentially. And then the kind of final piece we bring to market is an advertising platform that enables companies to actually monetize digital content by putting advertising into things like TV guides and applications as well.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. And Once again, you can go to facebook.com/streamingmediaeurope, post things. I think probably what most of us would be interested in would be, thank you very much, Dom, I appreciate that, would be scores. So if there's an updated score, make sure you post that on the Facebook page so we can all participate in that. So let's start off with some definitions. I think when we first talked about second screen, a lot of people sometimes wonder, what exactly does that mean, a second screen? So I wanted to start out with a scenario and then get you guys to kind of comment on this. When we talk about a second screen, I'm watching a television, a large screen, and then I have a smaller second screen in front of me, whether that's a phone or a tablet or a laptop. And then we've even seen tertiary, third screens, where you'll have a laptop or a computer up, a TV on, and a mobile device as well. So tell me a little bit about your thoughts on what users are doing. What are people doing at home and using devices, and what does the second screen look like?
So I haven't heard about the tertiary screen, actually.
We're going to make that right now. It's a new term, tertiary screen. It's happening.
I like to think I'm quite techie, and I've never actually yet watched TV whilst using my computer whilst on my
You've not
smartphone.
done? Oh, it's the best thing ever. That's awesome. I love it.
So I'll try that out this evening. I'm not sure if I'm clever enough for that. But I think from my perspective, the second screen is if you're doing something on your smartphone, whatever it might be, which complements what's going on TV and is designed to augment your TV experience, then that is the second screen. If you're doing something completely different, sending email and all the rest of it, then I think the two experiences are kind of unrelated. So that's my take on it.
So you're actually saying that a second screen is something that relates directly to the content that's on the first screen?
Yeah, and some people, half the people will be doing stuff that relates to what's going on the first screen, and half the people will be doing stuff that is just completely unrelated.
Gotcha.
And I think when the two are together, that becomes the second screen.
Okay, interesting. What about you, Simon? What do you think? And this could be. Oh yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Let's go.
Here, use this.
Just speaking from personal experience, in many cases, it starts off like you're researching an actor or something, and then, it just goes on and on and on. So you start off with your definition of second screen and wander off to, and it end up you writing an email to a colleague. Or
That's a great point. In that what can. It is a gray area because once, let's say I'm watching that trashy TV show and I'm watching the live stream and there's a link and I click on that and it opens a YouTube video or a Wikipedia page, and then I see something else and I go after that, and then the email notification pops up, etc., then that no longer becomes a second screen as it relates to a first screen. That's interesting. Simon?
Yeah, I generally agree with Will's definition. I mean, we generally talk more about multi-screen experiences at Rovi because we, help companies build experiences that basically operate across, more than two screens. So our focus is more on enabling that kind of experience. But I think, to Will's point, in the context of watching a big screen, when you're getting something on a second device that is adding information and adding interactivity and engagement to the TV program, then I think that's something we can agree on here and now. So,
agreed. So a couple numbers. I wanted to talk about some numbers. This is according to Nielsen in their Q4 2011 and I think Q1 2012. 88% of a global audience, and this is UK, US, Germany, Scandinavia, some other countries in Europe, all pulled into this profile. 88% of users that have a smartphone are watching TV and on a second screen. 88%. That's a huge percentage of people that are using a second screen while they're watching another first screen. I think that's why we're seeing such a huge jump in people trying to jump on companion apps and social streams, and how do we get this huge massive audience of people that are doing other things when we want them to watch our content. So it should be interesting to see, and I know we talked a little bit about maybe some of the other numbers. What are you seeing, Simon, on uses? What are people doing on those second screens when they're supposed to be watching that first screen?
Well, it's funny you should ask that because we regularly go into people's homes and spy on them, and with their permission, of course. But no, seriously, an important part of our kind of research department's role is to, regularly spend time with consumers and understand what they're doing with all these different devices. There's some fascinating outcomes from that research as to how kind of consumers behave, particularly with one another. So we discovered a thing called DVR guilt, for example, where one side of a marriage would be watching an episode without telling their partner, and then they'd sit through it again without telling them they'd already seen it. Uncovered all these fascinating insights. But back to the point, one of the kind of things we found that was interesting was we asked consumers to kind of log what they were doing with that second device whilst they're watching TV. We had kind of thousands of data points come in, and we found that around sort of 13% of those were related to the content actually on the TV.
Say that again for emphasis.
13.
So only 13% of people were actually using that second screen that directly related to the content they were watching.
To the main content. All of the other interactions were, what's going on Facebook? Have I got any new email? How's my bid going on eBay? It was unrelated. So in that sense, the 88? You said?
88%.
88% is very exciting and does provide a great opportunity to take advantage of that connected device that's in their hands. So that's exciting. On the other hand, there's definitely a threat that people are going to get disengaged from the content they're viewing. So, I think one of the roles that these multi-screen experiences can play is to keep keep consumers engaged, as well as kind of deepen the engagement they have with the content and experience.
Excellent. Let's talk a little bit about competition and that 13% of distraction. Robert Scoble just recently on a post on TechCrunch commented about, I think it was the CEO of Miso, M-I-S-O, which is a standalone app company. And he said, why would I download a standalone app for a particular product, show, event, whatever, when I can get everything I need off of Facebook, Twitter, or Google+. Talk a little bit about what makes a good case for a standalone app, and what are the differences between an app and just a traditional social stream?
I think it's all about the genre and the format. So Downton Abbey does not lend itself, I don't know how international our audience is here, but certain formats such as Downton Abbey don't lend themselves well to second screening. And certain formats do. So I think that one of the most successful examples in the UK has been the £1 Million Drop on Channel 4, which is now getting about 12% of TV viewers engaging on the second screen app. And it's a proper play-along experience. Your whole TV watching experience is enhanced by using that second screen app. So I think it's all about the format. I think certain things you want to do in certain ways, and if you can produce something that genuinely enhances the TV format, then that's a great thing to do. Otherwise, the likes of Twitter and Facebook are great. And you've then got platforms like Zbox, which are trying to aggregate all of them.
Right, and just so you know, we're seeing a lot of the standalone apps, whether they're developed for a specific show or a specific event, are actually pulling all that content in and aggregating social streams and putting it alongside their own content as well. It's also interesting to point out Zbox is also giving more powerful tools to the end users, where they're saying, hey, you can be a part of a contest or a poll, or sign up for a free iPad and we'll put you on our mailing list, etc.
And it's interesting, you talk about Robert Scoble saying, why wouldn't I just use Twitter, why wouldn't I just use Facebook? But actually the most successful examples of second screen are where they have bespoke apps. And I'm not saying that works for everything, but they are the most successful examples. Possibly because they're promoted on TV, to be fair.
Yeah.
But then so is every Twitter hashtag.
Yeah, really.
I think I'd add one thing to that as well, and if he thinks he's getting everything from those feeds, frankly he's missing out on a few possibilities. I mean, a lot of kind of usage that we see with our guidance application that's on a tablet is to learn more about what people are watching, not just get social feeds. So, you know, I agree that getting Twitter and Facebook feeds is interesting from a social point of view, but we found a lot of consumers want to find more about a particular actor or a particular series they're watching. And then from there, discover new related content, maybe even change to watch that. Also things like, he's also in that, I'm going to set my DVR to make sure it picks that up when it starts airing. So I think there's an awful lot more consumers want to do than just view social feeds via those directly.
Awesome. The next question I'm going to ask, and I'm going to give you guys a second to think about this, is who's winning and who's losing? What are some of the success stories, whether it's your own product or someone else? You mentioned that standalone apps are, you know, creating better experiences. So think about a story that you can tell us, but real quick before we do that, about 75% of the people in the room right now are on a device, and I just want to know, I'm curious, what are you doing right now? No, you're not. Reading email. Okay. What are you doing? Okay, we actually have somebody on the Facebook page here. What are you doing on your phone? Email. What about you, Dom? It's just about streaming live. What about you? You've got your laptop open. What have you got on? Email. He said that really slowly. And then we have people actually using pen and paper. I like to see that. That's good. That's good. Oh, we're live. Hey, everybody say hi. We're live on the internet. Everybody wave out there. Oh, yeah. Here, let's pull it up. Here we go. So we can actually see ourselves. How fun is that? Oh, there we go. I'd like to hear that. Here, use the mic because we're recording.
Yeah, maybe you don't want all your Facebook friends and family and see that you're really into Big Brother and commenting on every episode. And in an app, you don't have to hand out your information or your email if the app builders doesn't choose to do so. So you can interact anonymously in another way.
Except half the apps do require you to log in via Facebook or Twitter.
That's just what I was gonna.
Yeah.
So, what are some stories? What are some interesting stories of successful or unsuccessful apps, standalone apps, events that are happening with second screen integration?
A couple of quick examples from my perspective. Obviously, Twitter is winning and doing a great job on TV, and hashtags are now everywhere. Facebook, I think, would like to be doing more and is doing more in the States, but here there's not much Facebook TV interaction happening. Zbox has got a lot of excitement, hype, and attention, which is an aggregation of all of them. Certainly here, and it's now in the States and Australia and other countries as well. And in terms of standalone apps, I think the really successful ones to date have been super simple, tap to clap. You know, on X Factor, where there's not a whole lot going on, but it's quite fun and quite entertaining. And I think people now need a slightly more engaged experience. So things like £1 Million Drop, etc., have been really successful. And some of the stuff we've done has been really successful too. But I'm not going to sit here and talk about that. You know.
Good man. Good man.
I think the first thing I'd say in that question is it's early days. So, you know, there's a lot of experimentation going on at the moment. Obviously, Will's company are doing a great job in enabling that as well. The main kind of, you know, established success cases I can think of are largely, you know, cable provider companion apps such as Sky's app and Xfinity in the US. They've seen kind of steady growth and usage, and they're kind of providing that. A few things, that kind of discovery and extra information kind of metadata experience, and also a TV everywhere experience as well. So you were talking right up front about switching from different screens. I think you know, some of the applications that enable people to stop viewing on their TV and pick it up on their iPad and go into another room and things like that are also good kind of companion success cases as well.
The other thing that's interesting to me is that pretty much everybody is a player in this space, whether you think of like the massive companies that are allowing, you know, this type of opportunity, all the way down to an individual who sets up a live stream account and can use it to, you know, do social streaming while they're live streaming as well. So it'll be interesting to see I think content will really dictate how people are going to win, whether they're an individual or a massive, company putting out a really popular piece of content. Talk a little bit about which content is right. What is the right content for Second Screen? Is it sports, events? What is it?
Live is awesome, and anything that can kind of engage obsessed 17-year-old girls is pretty awesome as
Obsessed 17-year-old girls. Mark that down.
They those shows, some of the shows we worked on, like Made in Chelsea. I don't know if anyone's seen it, but you get a lot of obsessed 17-year-old girls who will do anything to engage with the show. So those kind of formats, and sports, obviously.
And surprisingly enough, that demographic has money attached to it as well. So.
Yeah, not spending a whole lot with us, but yeah.
Right. Yeah. What do you think, Simon? What are some of the appropriate places you would use Second Screen standalone apps or social streams?
Yeah, I mean, nothing to add to Will there. I think obviously live is a no-brainer. I'll show my demographic a bit more and mention programs like Question Time. And more kind of adult programs, I guess. But again, it's live, it's audience participation, it's watching, it's engaging with people through social media. So yeah, I think that's the main use case.
Let's talk a little bit about the challenges, because we do have, not only do we have distractions, a huge percentage of these people are distracted, but also are we pushing a model that benefits content providers to the detriment of the end user? And I think about how we already, when we're watching traditional TV and an ad comes up, we pull out our second screen because we want to ignore the ad and we want more content. And so now that we're starting to see these standalone apps, and a lot of them have ad-supported content in it, whether it's ads that relate to the content or not, are we risking a little bit of alienating our end users by giving them too much ad stuff as opposed to real content that they want? What do you guys think about that?
So challenges. Distraction is a big challenge. I think making money out of it is a big challenge. I think it's early. I said a second ago it's early days, and I think with a lot of new kind of areas like this, it takes a while for people to figure out how you actually monetize these experiences and these technologies. I think when you look beyond the kind of standalone app world, and there's always going to be a market for apps for like the hit shows, kind of the big hits. I think when you go beyond that, the challenges are going to be around being able to scale your service across all the different platforms and devices that people have in their hands and in their homes. I talk about that through kind of the experience we've had delivering basic streaming experiences, and how challenging it is for providers to support the different platforms and devices they want to. So I think that's going to be a key challenge that people are going to face when they look to scale to the point where they're getting units that monetize the experience enough to make a profit, essentially.
Which will be interesting because a lot of people are still trying to figure out just basic live streaming monetization. So much less adding a second screen on top of that monetization as well. Let's talk one more question, and then we'll start taking questions from the audience, because this is a small audience. You guys are here. Let's find out what you guys want to hear. But the final question for you guys from me is the future. We have very quickly, this is a very new space. This is not something that we've been talking about for 10 years. So what does the future of this look like in the next year, in the next 3 to 5 years? Where are we going with this? What's going to happen in the future?
TV is not going away. Linear TV is actually on the rise. VOD is on the rise even more. But basically we're all just sitting around watching more stuff. TV is here to stay. I think there's going to be a really interesting battle on the second screen between the over-the-top stuff that is unofficial and the stuff that the broadcasters put out. And a lot of the broadcasters at the moment are just sitting back, panicking and not doing anything about it, and the progressive broadcasters are saying, okay, great, the second screen's here. Let's make sure we do our best to curate and manage and own that experience. So I think, from my perspective, TV's here to stay, and it's about the battle as to who owns the second screen.
Gotcha. What about you, Simon?
I think if I sort of think 3, 4, 5 years ahead, I think I can see an experience where there's definitely more than 2 screens. So I can foresee a multi-screen and multi-user kind of experience depending on what you're watching. So what I mean by that is, even if you've got friends in, the other side of the world that might be watching a live event, I can foresee an experience where you all kind of log in and pair up to a shared kind of social experience. I definitely think that, as I said a minute ago, we're going to see experiences that go beyond standalone apps. And I can imagine a time really where, once some standardization has come about in terms of the platforms that these experiences are running on, I can foresee a time where your mobile device automatically kind of pairs with your TV or your friend's TV around the house very quickly and easily, so that experience is easy to kind of initiate, and then also I can definitely see some technologies emerging where there's more kind of bi-directional communication between all of those devices that are engaged. So you talked about the scenario where there's an ad break and people pick up their phones or their tablets. Well, I know, there's interest in enabling an experience where the actual TV device is pushing stuff over to that tablet. And I'm not necessarily talking about a banner ad. It could be an invite for a multi-user game. You could deploy that kind of technology and use it in many different ways. So, they're the kinds of richer multi-user kind of experience I could imagine coming to market.
Excellent. How many of you remember, I'll come to you. How many of you remember the Choose Your Own Adventure books, where you would start out at the beginning and you'd read a chapter and then it'd say, if you want to go here, turn to page 7. If you want, I would love to see somebody in the content space really crack that with a second screen.
The British Army already did that. They start thinking soldier with the TV advert. That's the first time in 10 years they hit their rate for people to sign up. Because they had those adverts for, what would you do in this situation? And then go to this website here, and then you choose A, B, or C. Do you blow this up? Do you wait for a command? Or do you leave and do something else instead? And that's the first time they got people to play. They came online, they played this game, and so they basically took control of the situation. And then everyone who got a really high score, they then invited them down for a training day at the army. And that's,
I like that. I'd like to see somebody actually, you're watching a primetime TV show, and in real time, the users decide where they want the show to go. And then all of a sudden the show changes to something that's decided upon real time.
I don't know if anyone saw the
could you trust the users?
I don't know if anyone saw the Mercedes are running adverts during X Factor UK at the moment, where in the first commercial break, there's a poll, a Twitter poll, and that governs what is displayed in the fourth commercial break, which is interesting. That's an advertiser, not a that's an advert.
Right.
Not
right.
Not in the show.
But I think we're pretty close to that, driving the content. Let's start here. Question.
Thanks. Yeah, it comes back to that point about monetization and that maybe 3-5 year outlook. How do you see people making money from it? Is it sort of buying an app, buying content from within that second screen, ad funded? What sort of commercial model do you see actually materializing there?
Advertising is the most obvious one. So it's funny that you guys mentioned those experiences you've seen. I think advertisers are really excited by what's possible with those multiple screens. I think app developers, you could perhaps foresee a kind of freemium model from an app developer's point of view, where you get an app for free, and perhaps to, engage with your friends, or to move video between the device. You could have some kind of add-on upgrades that those app developers could add to it. But I think in all the kind of digital entertainment areas that I'm certainly involved in, it's all about scale. So, you know, one of the products that I work on, the entertainment, the over-the-top entertainment sort of stuff, it's all about getting storefronts out there, getting them activated and getting them used. And I think the same is going to apply to this space as well. I think unless you can scale and attach users to that device footprint, you're going to struggle to really kind of monetize effectively.
And I think really creative, interesting, interactive formats are where sponsors and advertisers will be concentrating. So a good example, £1 Million Drop, I've already mentioned. It's a play-along game that runs in the UK. It's a kind of game, it's a quiz show, basically. You know, if they've got 1 million viewers and 10% of them are playing along at home, that's 100,000 viewers, let's say, in the UK, which is reasonable. And if those players at home could start with 10 Tesco's pounds, for example, which they're given, and they play along, and at the end they might be left with nothing, but if they're left with 4 Tesco's pounds or 3 Tesco's pounds, and they can then print out a voucher and they can go and spend those in Tesco's, then something like that is, the viewers at home will think, hey, you know, they'll feel like the advertiser isn't a pain in the arse or running pre-roll or whatever. They'll feel that they're really getting value and they'll connect with that brand. The brand will get loads more footfall and kind of everyone wins. So I think those kind of models, which you can't really achieve on TV, I think they're really exciting, and I think that's where the exploration will kind of happen.
Some of the other thoughts on money too is that some of the things that we're already talking or that are already happening with video, where they're sort of an upgrade for people who are, you know, members of a club or season ticket holders or whatever, is providing additional value for people that are already buying from you. And you think about DVD extras is a great way to think about it. Remember, you buy the special edition DVD or Blu-ray and you get extra features. So people that are already buying, giving them more content, because that 17-year-old rabid fan base that wants everything about Twilight. You know, I want, you know, sheets and stickers and et cetera. I want as much content as I can get, and they're willing to pay for it. So I think that we'll see that as well, people putting their money down for additional content. Other questions about second screen?
We're looking at a time when you think the second screen becomes the first screen?
Good question. When does the second screen become the first screen? And I assume you mean by that when people start watching this more than the TV, or what do you mean by? What do you? Yeah, when is that going to happen?
Well, it's common, you know, people think there is a rush in that direction, and there is to some degree. However, there was a Screen Digest report published a few weeks or a month or so ago. I don't know if anyone saw it, that showed how, you know, currently economically, once you're live streaming to, I think, 8,000 users for your IP, it's cheaper to go to traditional linear. So the economics aren't they point to a slower move in that direction, quite honestly, because it's going to be cheaper to go via linear for some time, I believe. To your point about when does the first screen become the second screen, I think you just have to view all of these things as pieces of glass that we watch content through, and where that experience starts and where it goes is just sort of down to the consumer. So you know, there's already a time now where you'll start watching an episode of your favorite soap on your mobile device, maybe finish the dinner, you go into your living room and you want to pick it up on your TV. There's a lot of TV everywhere experiences that already exist. So you could argue that we're kind of already there, and that, you know, people are already starting viewing on their second screen and then going on to their TV later.
And what about Crazy Fool Felix? Just jumped out of space. Mm-hmm. That was 8 million, apparently 8 million YouTube hits, and that was pretty successful. Does that become the first screen? I guess. Which I'm sure it did. And also, it's the only way you can deliver globally, right? So if you're trying to do a live event and you really want to deliver it globally, the internet is the only way to do that.
Yeah, that's the truth. It was interesting, like, just last night, the presidential debate was going on in the U.S., and you know, I had gone to bed, and so I wake up in the morning, and instead of, you know, I can't go watch the debate on BBC. You know, they may show a clip or highlights of it, but in order for me to get access to that content, I had to pull up my mobile phone and start watching it right away. And that, for me, was my primary screen at the time.
Yeah, so in reference to what you're saying, wouldn't primary screen just be whatever the first device is that you watch it on, and your secondary screen be this secondary device you have running? So it doesn't necessarily have to be a television. It could just be a computer screen and a tablet or a mobile phone.
Yeah, I agree with that big time. I think primary versus secondary, you know, becomes semantics. It's whatever you're watching right now in front of you. The other thing to talk about, question for you guys, is who's winning right now? And you can talk about your own company if you like, or somebody else in the space who's doing it right. Who do you think is capturing some of the market and making good stuff happen?
I'm not going to talk about my own company because everyone always gets annoyed when you talk about your own company on a panel. We're pretty good though. But the B, what about the B? The BBC's got a bit, you know, doing a pretty good job. If you're looking at a broadcaster, they're uniquely funded, obviously. So I think from a you know, in terms of what they're delivering digitally, they're doing a pretty good job.
What about you, Simon? Who do you think is leading in the space, doing things right?
Well, clearly ZBox have done very well and have attracted a lot of interest and a lot of funding. So they're obviously, you know, providing not only an experience that consumers are enjoying, but a service that the broadcasters are engaging with as well. So an obviously good example for the UK.
Excellent. Other questions? Any other questions about Second Screen? Well, good. Well, I have one final question, and then we'll wrap this up. And anybody know is the score still 0-0? Anybody know? Anybody looking on their second screen to find that out? So for the companies here, and I know several of you work in large companies, what can companies do to prepare for this? And think about this: I don't think we have anybody who's doing major. Is anybody in the entertainment business actually pushing out top-level content?
Well, it does everyone. Given we've got quite a small audience, it'd be good to know where everyone is.
Yeah. If you guys would, if you have, because here's my interest: is Second Screen is not just for the Olympics and something big. It's also for very small, intimate. This live stream that we have a couple people watching, there's a second screen going on of people chatting and talking. So, you know, I would be interested for you all to share with some of these folks what you think companies who do things that are boring with video, how can they use second screen applications? Like corporate, you know, live casting for corporate events, or
we do. I'm going to talk about us. How about that? We do a bit of that sort of thing. So we launched the Boeing 787 Dreamliner, for example, in Seattle. So that's a good example of a large company not having access to television, but wanting to do cool live streaming kind of stuff. And you know, we're seeing a lot more of that. It's, you know, it's economical. It's some of it's experimentation at the moment, but there's a lot of that kind of stuff happening. There's conferences streaming, press events, launches, all sorts of stuff.
Anything newsworthy, noteworthy that a company is doing using video and second screen to kind of help with that?
Nothing that springs to my mind.
Oh, no, that's fine. I was just saying, I was agreeing with what you're doing. Any thoughts on that, Simon?
So your original question is, what can companies do?
Yeah,
to
what
prepare?
can a company do? I mean, this is, and also the future too. Thinking about, you know, these companies that are just right now doing live streaming of, you know, earnings calls, or, you know, whatever it may be. What does the future look like for the company who's doing that now to use a second screen app? What could we do to think about using that in the future?
Yeah, so I guess I mean, that's the content's key, right? So I'm not. I don't know how many second screen experiences we're going to get for analyst calls and reporting calls. It's an interesting idea, though.
I've been using second screens for years. You guys are so
We just have a transcript. So yeah, I think the content's key as to whether or not that experience is viable, I guess. Just to go back to your original question, what can you do to prepare? I guess based on experience rolling out various sort of different technologies, don't underestimate it. Would be my best tip. I think often things look simpler than they actually are. Yeah, let's have a companion app. Yeah, let's do it. It was only going to cost us this much. When you actually get into the weeds and the technicalities of launching and doing it, I often think that a lot of our customers are surprised by what's involved. So I think I'd probably say that would be one point.
What are the rough costs? And you don't have to speak specifically, but what are the rough costs of a company saying, hey, we want a companion app? What does that cost?
So I can divulge a little bit of the way some of our models work. We don't create actual apps. I don't think Showcaster do either. We provide data feeds that apps can pull from, and that's typically based on the number of API calls you make. So if your viewers are looking up Tom Cruise 100 times, then there's a price per call, and the same for other data that you pull down as well. So it's kind of typically a usage model for that kind of thing. I don't know if you want to comment on other aspects of how it might work.
been using second screens for voting and audience response in the corporate world.
We have. So some of the shows on Sky, we've been taking it's been promoted on TV that you can go to the second screen, whether that be the broadcaster's own apps or whether that be ZBox and other second screen platforms. And the audience can then go and interact either via Twitter or via Facebook or via ZBox or via polls. And we then take the results in real time and we throw them back onto screen. And the presenter will then refer
I've seen
to
it for
us.
TV. I was wondering if you'd done it in the corporate environment.
Oh, in a corporate environment? Yeah, absolutely. So we kind of, our suite of interactive tools, here's me talking about us, hey. Our suite of interactive tools is used across a lot of the shows. So the Boeing 787 Dreamliner launch that I mentioned, the audience, there were a bunch of plane spotters, kind of, different, quite obsessed as well, but not 17-year-old girls this time, I don't think. And they could, there were questions being asked, and they could all cast their opinion, and it didn't necessarily change the direction of the plane down the runway or anything, but there was a community, there was stuff going back to screen there.
Okay, it's interesting.
I think we're just scratching the surface on this, and I don't know that any of us really know what's going to happen. It blew my mind when I started looking at the numbers of how many people are engaging in this, second screen, content war, and it is about distraction. I think it has a lot to do with what the end user will bear and what they want and how they want to interact with the content. So I would encourage you all to think long term about how this is going to affect your business, because several years ago if we had said, hey, as a corporation you're going to have to start doing live streaming video, you probably, no, we're never going to need to do that. There's TV stations out there that do that. We're not going to need to do that. So I think in the coming years we're going to find that companies as a whole are going to be spending time, energy, effort on the attention of people on a second screen in front of them. Do you guys have any closing thoughts? Anything you want to share to kind of wrap up? Nope. Good. We got to find out what the game's going on. So, thank you guys so much for your time. Please, a nice round of applause for our panelists. They did a great job. And as we so cleverly noted, not only have we recorded this, but we also have live streamed it as well. And so I'm sure we'll find a copy of this later on that you can share with your friends and family. So. Let's wrap it up, and thank you guys so much for attending, and thank you for attending Streaming Media Europe as well. I really appreciate you guys coming out, and hopefully we'll see you next year. Thank you guys.